Everyone, I'm Jennifer Wilson, keeper of this space, Sisters Uptown Bookstore and Cultural Center. I'd like to welcome all of you to this space. We're celebrating 14 years of community service, and so we're celebrating next Saturday from 2 until. So you all are welcome to come out and join us next week. And this is the author of Black Papers. And so our friend and her friend is going to tell us a little about Atelier. So I'm going to step aside and welcome.
Thank you everyone for coming out to our first book signing for Dr. Atelier Ali. We're here celebrating the Black Papers, and I hope you all get a copy before you leave today. So Dr. Ali is one of my closest friends. She is an educator, psychologist, business owner, activist, and now an author. So I'm glad you come out to share in this book signing.
Cynthia failed to tell you that after she read the book, she called and told me she had to have a drink. So she didn't tell you that. So thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out. This is just so special, particularly to have friends here who I don't get to see often. I need a tissue because it's just so special, and I'm so appreciative that all of you have come out. I'd like to thank Jennifer and Michael also, as I'm so appreciative of Black-owned businesses because they're so important to the fabric of our community. And we all have to understand the need because we have to have a space where we can come and congregate and discuss issues that are relevant to our households and our families. So thank you so much, Jennifer. Michael's wonderful also. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by telling you a little bit about who I am and how my experiences have made me who I am today and have developed my belief system. I wrote the Black Papers for two reasons. The first reason is because I wanted to leave my children with a legacy. I wanted them to have a place to go where they could go and hear my voice at all times about my feelings of institutional racism in this community, how I want them to be able to survive and thrive in such a place. And so when Allah takes me, I want them to have that where they can go and hear their mom's voice. The one most memorable moment for me after writing the book was, I've been writing for about 8 years, just collecting notes and writing and taking down documentation. And once the book was actually bound, this is so great, I can't believe you did this. And I said, yeah, well, thank you. I'm glad you're so pleased because we're going to add this to your summer reading list. And he looked at me and said, we have to read this? Like, we have to really read this? So that was really memorable for me. And I mean, for me, those of you who are parents know that we live for our children. And so to have them proud of me was huge. For the whole 14 hours until we got back to the school. Cried. Because for me, here I have raised this kid. You know, I started him from the beginning. I had my center for that reason, because I wanted to grow my own kids up that young. And here, my 5.5 years of building this kid's confidence up was destroyed in 3 weeks. By a sister. By a sister. And so I had to, you know, with shame, I had to go to the white principal and explain all my concerns, which I didn't want to have to do, but I did. So that was my first experience with my own child, with this institution of racism that we know so well about. Grew him up. He's in another school, 6th, 7th grade, I think, when President Obama was running. So by this time, by 6th, 7th grade, my kids are, you know, they've gotten all the information, all the rides to school, from school, dinner table. They've gotten taught about all the racism. So my son comes home and he says, guess what we talked about today? We talked about voting rights. And the teacher told us that the reason Black people couldn't vote was because they couldn't read and write. And so he knew to say, well, that's not true, this is why, this is why. Of course, this teacher, until he left, didn't like him. But I always told him, you speak the truth, and then I'll come and handle the rest. And in his, you know, 14-whatever-year-old way, I'm sure he said to her, that's not true. You know, didn't have any tact, but he said it, that's not true. And so then I had to go speak to the teacher and explain, the problem is that you're uneducated. Because here we have a room full of, most of the kids in the school were Hispanic kids, South Americans, you know, first-time generation here. And this is what they're learning about us, you know, not to mention our own kids. And so I explained that, well, I thought that, and I said, well, no, that's not, we had many intellectuals. And so that was my other experience with him. And so then moving forward, then I had my middle son. Went to school, he was on the honor roll all the way through, you know, while he was there, just I think 3rd grade. Teacher would send home progress reports, you know, Ali is such a great student. He's on the honor roll, he interacts with the other kids. So then it came time for the little award ceremony. So he used to get embarrassed by me, so I always had to watch, you know, what I said in his presence. So we're sitting at the award ceremony, and he is the only black boy in the class. All the other kids are Hispanic, a couple little black girls. And they're calling up everybody's name. Oh, such and such got best reader. This person got best in math. This person got best in geography. And then they call Ali's name, and Ali got best athlete. Now, the problem that I had, number one, was that there's no athletic program in the school at all. There's not. There's not even a playground. There's no playground. So I sat ready to implode, and I said, okay, how can I best not embarrass my son? How should I not do that? So I sat there for a few minutes, I left, and I went in the parking lot, and I called the principal, with whom I didn't get along with as well. And I explained to her, you know, well, what's your point, is what she said. Well, I explained what my point was, and asked if I could speak to the teacher. And this teacher, very sweet. I mean, this is a Catholic school. All these teachers have grown up through the school. They mean well. And she just did not understand why I was so upset. Well, he's a good athlete. And I said, well, how did you come to that decision? You know, like, what did you see him do, run into his classroom? I mean, how did you determine that he's the best athlete? I said, do you understand how still it is?
During recess. Was during recess. Everybody had a group, and then when I got higher up, the girls liked the athletes, which I was not. And from then, even from to this day, I feel I want to conceal my being a good student and a scholar. And that's right. It goes right from early childhood. I want to conceal it because, and I was told that I was different because I was a good student by grown-ups, and I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be like everybody else. And I wanted to be liked by the girls like they like the athletes. That's right.
You expect an individual who's going toward an academic path opposed to an athletic path, because many of the young ladies are looking for an athlete because they're gold diggers or whatever, that's what they're looking for. That's their aspiration in life. How do you address that? How do you change the mindset when you have an entire generation that's the music that they listen to, the clothes, the culture, everything is dumbed down? So for us to be able to go against what's constantly being put in their face, because they've got all this technology constantly, they know more of the technology than we do. How do we fight that to make them say, put the technology down and open a book, or sit down and let me talk to you. This is Black History Month. Let me educate you, because school ain't educating you. And or you need to open your mind to want to be educated as well too. It's sad, you know. It's, you know, I've so many times I say I just look.
And that we actually identify and put our energy in those that are salvageable.
Yes.
And I think that that's a hard thing for us to accept, because it is not within our nature to do so. But I would actually believe that that's a necessary.
Yeah, because I think some of us came to get it this time. Some will get it later. Some didn't.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I think people resist it rather than like.
You're welcome.
If that's where they can.
Oh, you taping it?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't take that. You can take a picture. Thank you for having me. You were a great contributor to our conversation, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm from Harlem. This is Letty for the LMS Extra Extra Show.